From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. The growth of natural gas and oil production in the United States has changed experts' predictions about energy worldwide. Recently, delegates at a conference in Texas spoke of a world increasingly powered by what they call unconventional fuels. By this, they mean fuels that are not petroleum. The United States is increasing its natural gas production, but the biggest energy user, transportation, still depends largely on oil. Daniel Ackerson is the chairman of General Motors. He says offering home natural gas fueling stations might help. But he says that is not likely to happen until the United States supports the creation of far more fueling stations nationwide. Cars and trucks powered by natural gas are costly. That is why John Felmy of the American Petroleum Institute says any change has to start with large commercial vehicles. He says family-sized vehicles would cost too much compared to other electric or gas-powered ones. He thinks it would be wise to suggest the export of liquefied natural gas as a way for producers to expand their business. John Felmy says such exports would cut the United States trade deficit and create more jobs. Yet, he believes they would have only a small effect on the price most people pay. Energy officials from many countries wanted to learn how they could expand their own natural gas production at the conference in Houston. For many nations, this is a way to fight poverty. Arsenio Mabote is chairman of Mozambique's National Petroleum Institute. He says energy resources can be used to generate electricity, and that brings development. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. President Obama held a White House conference in March to discuss ways to prevent bullying in school. But bullying is a problem not just among young people. Workplace bullying can involve threats, baseless criticism, discrimination, and favoring some employees unfairly over others. 35% of Americans in a survey said they had been bullied at some time at work. The poll by Zogby International and the Workplace Bullying Institute found that another 15% have witnessed it. What some workers consider bullying by another worker or a supervisor might not always be true. But experts say productivity suffers in workplaces where employers tolerate or accept bullying. People take sick leave more often. Some take legal action. Jennifer Sandberg is a law partner in the Atlanta offices of Fisher and Phillips. She represents companies in labor cases. She says employers can avoid most problems simply by acting in a professional, businesslike way. In her words, the best advice I can give to managers and supervisors is not to worry about the law, but to be sure that their behavior is professional. She says this means that everyone plays by the same set of rules. She points out that there are still basic rules that every single person in an organization needs to follow. People who bully spend less time on productive work. They can make the workplace tense, and unhealthy. Author and executive coach Lauren Mackler calls it a toxic environment. She advises people to avoid emotional conflict and childlike reactions when faced with insulting criticisms. She also says people who show self-respect can be less likely targets of a bully. She gives examples like dressing well and looking people in the eye when talking to them. And Lauren Mackler advises people who feel bullied to consider how the bully got that way. She says bullies were often bullied themselves as children. In her words, that'll help you to have more compassion inside instead of judging the person and further feeding a toxic interaction. But bullying can cause some people to leave their job. Ms. Mackler says replacing experienced workers can cost 1.5 times their yearly pay, or even more. In April of 2010, Australia's Productivity Commission considered the cost of bullying in a report on workplace safety. The lowest estimate of the cost to the Australian economy 10 years ago was $6 to $13 billion. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read and listen to our programs on business and other subjects at voaspecialenglish.com. Click on the classroom link for interactive exercises. And join us on Facebook and Twitter at VOA Learning English.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Air traffic over much of Europe came to a halt for 6 days in April because of the huge cloud of ash from a volcano in Iceland. The economic costs added up as airlines flew everyone to where they were trying to go. At its worst, the crisis affected nearly a third of world air travel. About 100,000 flights were canceled or delayed. The International Air Transport Association estimated the cost to airlines at nearly $2 billion. But that does not include costs like the tons of flowers that growers in Kenya and Israel had to destroy, or all the fruits and vegetables that could also not be flown to Europe. Other businesses that depend on air travel, including hotels and vacation places, also suffered. The crisis affected airports from Washington to Pakistan. The crisis came just as Europe is trying to recover from its worst recession in generations. Greece, a popular travel place, continues to face a debt crisis that has sharply raised its borrowing costs. The United States halted air travel for 3 days after the terrorist attacks in 2001. The travel ban in April lasted twice as long in some European countries. Critics accused European air transport officials of being slow to react, then overreacting to the possible risk to airplanes. The volcano eruption cost time and money for travelers. Hundreds of thousands were stuck. Some had no place to stay except the airport. Others tried to make their way by train, bus, boat, or car. Vacationers had to change or cancel plans. And not all businesses were sympathetic. An American stuck in London, already one of the world's highest-priced cities, found that her hotel had doubled its prices. Some embassies offered emergency loans to their citizens. Passengers delayed on European airlines may be able to get back at least some of the money they had to spend. The crisis brought new attention to the billion-dollar market for travel insurance. About 30% of Americans buy policies to cover unexpected problems when they travel. Some credit cards offer a form of insurance and could also face claims. The volcanic eruption was the second time in 2 years that Iceland has shaken its neighbors to the east. The first time was the near collapse of Iceland's banks and currency during the world financial crisis. And that's the VOA Special English Economics Report.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. Ghana arrested more than 100 Chinese nationals in June. They were accused of illegally mining gold. In February, Zambia seized a Chinese-operated mine because of safety concerns. And Gabon has decided to seize property from 3 foreign oil companies, including one from China. Some observers say these and other incidents appear to be a reaction by African governments against Chinese investment on the continent. China became Africa's top trade partner in 2009, yet some Africans believe they are not getting enough for their exports. Bright Simons is with the Imani Group. He says China is no longer known only for giving loans and sending workers to build hospitals and roads. He says China is now a business partner. Ghana has taken steps against foreigners involved in shallow mining for gold. Only Ghanaians can get government approval for this kind of mining. Bright Simons says some Ghanaians rent the permits to foreigners who have the money and training to actually mine the gold. Observers say nations like Niger and Gabon want to get more for their natural resources. They want more money, more local jobs, and better living conditions. Worldwide demand for oil, coal, iron ore, and uranium has made their negotiating position stronger. Some nations are also concerned about abusive or illegal operations. In Gabon, the government says it is planning not to extend operating permits to 3 companies, including ADAX, which is part of China's Sinopec. Many experts believe the partnership between China and Africa will continue to grow, but now perhaps on more equal terms. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. Ghana arrested more than 100 Chinese nationals in June. They were accused of illegally mining gold. In February, Zambia seized a Chinese-operated mine because of safety concerns. And Gabon has decided to seize property from 3 foreign oil companies, including one from China. Some observers say these and other incidents appear to be a reaction by African governments against Chinese investment on the continent. China became Africa's top trade partner in 2009, yet some Africans believe they are not getting enough for their exports. Bright Simons is with the Imani Group. He says China is no longer known only for giving loans and sending workers to build hospitals and roads. He says China is now a business partner. Ghana has taken steps against foreigners involved in shallow mining for gold. Only Ghanaians can get government approval for this kind of mining. Bright Simons says some Ghanaians rent the permits to foreigners who have the money and training to actually mine the gold. Observers say nations like Niger and Gabon want to get more for their natural resources. They want more money, more local jobs, and better living conditions. Worldwide demand for oil, coal, iron ore, and uranium has made their negotiating position stronger. Some nations are also concerned about abusive or illegal operations. In Gabon, the government says it is planning not to extend operating permits to 3 companies, including ADAX, which is part of China's Sinopec. Many experts believe the partnership between China and Africa will continue to grow, but now perhaps on more equal terms. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. One of the largest air shows in the United States is also one of the largest trade shows in the aircraft industry. AirVenture took place in July at an airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Ron Wagner is from the Experimental Aircraft Association, which holds the event each year. He said almost every major manufacturer and many smaller ones were represented. Visitors could find everything from old passenger planes to new unmanned aircraft, like the Predator drone. But Ron Wagner says the spirit of the event is best represented by the pilots and engineers who build their own aircraft. He said, "Much of the modern innovation has come from the home builder community in the United States. We have a lot of freedom to build, design, and fly airplanes for our own use." If you are more interested in fast cars, here is a new turn in the world of motorsports. The Speed Sisters are a racing team of 8 Palestinian women in the West Bank. The team is a dream come true for Suna Aweda, the captain. But not everyone was happy to see her in the driver's seat of the BMW race car she drives. She says her family thought motor racing was not safe and mainly for men. But she says there is no sport that is especially for men or especially for women. She says women can compete with men in all kinds of sports. In June, the Speed Sisters became the first all-female racing team to compete in the Speed Test, a popular race in the West Bank. They faced some mechanical problems, but one of them finished in the top 10. The team includes Muslims and Christians, mothers, a librarian, a business student, and a woman who competed in a beauty pageant. 2 of the drivers were born into racing families. The Speed Sisters received money from the British consulate in Jerusalem to buy a race car. They also received driving lessons and guidance from 2 British women in motorsports, Helen Elstrup and Sue Sanders. Ms. Sanders says she knew right away the Speed Sisters had the drive to succeed. She said it did not matter whether they spoke the same language or had the same culture. They had the same desire to succeed and be the best. And that's the VOA Special English Economics Report. Transcripts, MP3s, and podcasts of our reports are at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at VOA Learning English.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Greek leaders have been holding talks with financial experts from the European Union, the International Monetary Fund, and the European Central Bank. All sides are working on ways to bring Greece's huge debt under control. That debt threatens to hurt Europe and the world economy. In 2011, the Greek government decided to close 50 state agencies to save money. The country's foreign creditors have demanded these types of cost-cutting measures. But this process has been a struggle. One example is Greece's attempt to close the Organization for Public Property Management, or ODDY. ODDY ran centers around the country that sold off different kinds of goods, from furniture to cars. At a center in Athens, cars of almost every model can be found. They may have been seized from drug dealers or taken from people who could not pay their bills. And there are lots of other goods: furniture, large appliances, buses, motorcycles, even gambling machines. ODDY used to sell them all. Now, that part of the agency has been closed, and the weather is ruining many of these goods. Officially, Greece closed ODDY, but employees and government officials say they really restructured it. They say ODDY has been renamed DDDY. It is no longer an organization, but a directorate, and it is now an office of the Greek Finance Ministry. Critics of the change say the new agency is no longer effective. Jobs have been cut sharply, and many costs have moved from pay to pensions. Critics of the cuts say they may not be saving Greece money after all. But the agency says that, in time, they will cut costs. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Apple sold over 15 million iPads just in the final 3 months of 2011. Now, the popular tablet computer is in its 3rd generation. But as Apple prepared to launch a new iPad on March 7th, it faced legal challenges in China over rights to the name of the device. A court in Guangdong province heard a case brought by the Chinese company ProView Technology. ProView is based in Shenzhen in southern China and belongs to ProView International Holdings. The company says it holds the legal rights to the iPad name in China. Apple says it bought the iPad trademark in China and 9 other countries from a business owned by ProView in 2009. A lawyer for ProView said he believes Apple has not provided new evidence for the case in Guangdong. Apple was appealing a decision by a lower court which found that the company did not own the iPad name. Another lawyer for ProView said the legal issue over the trademark was clear. He said his company is fighting Apple over the idea of ownership. He also said ProView was willing to settle with Apple for the right amount of money. ProView says it holds the trademark for the name of a device called an Internet Personal Access Device, or iPad. The device looks like a desktop computer. ProView says it sold about 20,000 of them over about 10 years. It says it received the trademark or legal rights to the name in 2001. ProView is in financial trouble. It has reported losses since 2008 and dismissed thousands of workers. Apple's legal team says that ProView is nearing failure. Apple says ProView has no product, no buyers, and no suppliers. Apple argues that a ruling against Apple would harm the interests of consumers in China. Apple holds 76% of the tablet computer market in that country with its iPad. A final decision by the High Court in Guangdong is expected to take weeks. The trademark issue has not hurt Apple's stock price, at least so far. Apple has become the most valuable publicly traded stock in the world, worth about $500 billion. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter. You can read, listen, and learn English with our programs and activities at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find English lessons at the VOA Learning English page on Facebook.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Apple's new version of its desktop operating system for Mac computers is called Mac OS X Lion. Apple says this latest OS X upgrade has over 200 new features. But one big difference is how the company will sell it, only by download at its Mac App Store. The price is $29.99. Users without the current version, Snow Leopard, will have to pay an extra $30 to download the new release. Last year, Apple had more than $500 million in sales of its desktop operating system. Experts say download-only software is getting more common. Dave Wolf is a vice president at Synergy Systems in Washington. His company helps software designers to develop and market products. He says the computer that many people use most is their mobile phone. People who download apps to smartphones have come to expect quick and easy software updates. Now, Dave Wolf says phones are shaping expectations for other computers. Downloadable programs mean fewer trips to stores to buy software. But that can also mean fewer sales for stores that depend on physical products, including most video games. And not everyone has a high-speed internet connection to make downloads quick and easy. But Dave Wolf says the cost savings are a big help to small businesses trying to reach a wide market. I think it's a boon to small software companies and entrepreneurs who have incredible ideas and want to get them out to market. He says the internet radio service, Pandora, for example, can offer free music because it has no costs of selling discs in stores. Pandora began selling shares of stock to the public in June. Next to go may be software stored on individual computers. Many companies are moving to cloud computing. The idea is to save money by storing software on somebody else's servers in large data centers. This way, people can easily access their music library or other applications from any device. This is not the case for users of Apple's iTunes. Now, Apple thinks it has a solution with a cloud computing service called iCloud, and Microsoft has developed Windows Azure. This platform is for businesses and software developers to use internet-based applications. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. For daily news and information, plus activities for English learners, go to voaspecialenglish.com.